buzzed, but not drunk host, Matt Geiger, alongside me is comic book movie Jesus, Brian Banner, and my boy, Jeff Hornacek. And guys, today is the day we've been waiting for. Yeah, it's New Year's, but we get to find out the bracket and the seedings for the top 64 comic book movies of all time.
Oh yes, but before we dive into the selection show, let's go over the grading criteria we'll be using in the next months to find out who our champion will be, and of course we need your guys' help voting on these. So the 5 categories and points that we will be awarding will be 1 for overall story and plot, 2 casting and acting, 3 best scene, 4 any effects on pop culture, and number 5 rewatchability. Banner, why don't you
most important rewatchability.
All right, so what we're going to do now...
Remember that, Geiger. Remember that.
He won't forget it. He wrote it. So as we dive in, guys, again, we're linking out where you can find this bracket online. We're going to need your guys' help voting on all these matchups. We're just going to go through real quick the field and then get some real quick feedback on who is what. Starting off, we have the Dark Knight taking on the winner of our play-in game, which will be held in Akron, Ohio at 11 a.m. on Wednesday afternoon on True TV South 6 between Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance and Batman and Robin. Our next matchup is between Batman Forever and TMNT Secret of the Ooze. Banner, we all know Michelangelo and you are both party dudes. What do you think about that match?
Look, it's going to be a tough matchup, to be honest with you. I think that TMNT, it's got – look, it's a sleeper pick. Let's be honest with ourselves.
It is very much a sleep. Our next matchup is between Batman Returns and the Green Hornet. Geiger, huge Batman Returns fan. How do you like their chances here?
I mean, this is a fucking landslide. The Green Hornet is probably one of the worst comic book movies. I think it's ranked 49th on our list out of 64. Batman Returns is a solid fucking pick, dude. I mean, let's be honest. Danny DeVito was awesome in it. Catwoman was fantastic. The ending kind of set up kind of some after-credit scenes down in the future that a lot of people wanted. Batman Returns should win this in a landslide.
Next up, we have the original Superman with Christopher Reeves going up against Suicide Squad. And our next matchup, the original Spider-Man going up against Josh Trank's 2015 Fantastic Four. Banner, I know you're a huge Fox fan. Defend that movie.
We're just going to throw in the towel right now.
Next up.
We're not even going to do that. Look, if it was based on first 45 minutes, hey, we've got a shot. After that, nah.
Unfortunately, it is not. Next up, Thor the Dark World makes the field. They'll be going up against the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. Captain America Civil War, which obviously was a huge hit this summer, made the field, and no surprise, it will be going up against a huge underdog in X-Men Origins Wolverine. Geiger, what are you looking for here?
Well, Captain America Civil War, I know I've had my problems with, but I do love it as a movie. I believe in that, especially in that region, they could win that whole fucking tournament. I mean, our 1 seeds are pretty solid, but that's a movie that could make a run deep in the tournament. X-Men Origins Wolverine, I don't...
Will not.
Yeah, will not at all.
Geiger, got to come back to you for this next matchup, and I think one of our most excited ones for the first round, and then Banner will let you chime in. But The Crow is taking on the Thomas Jane Punisher movie. What do you think about that?
This is a one where it's like, it's not going to be anything fancy. There's not going to be any three-pointers or anything. This is a down-and-dirty fucking brawl between The Crow and the Punisher. Both of these movies are fantastic. The rewatchability, I could watch these probably about 10 to 12 times in a year. These are fucking fantastic.
Which is disgusting because they're dark and heavy. Banner, what are your thoughts on this very interesting first-round matchup?
It is a defensive battle. Look, this is going to be like...
buckets in the paint.
It's not going to be a pretty game. This is a game played in the snow. It's going to be 6-3.
It's going to be sub-zero temperatures with 6 feet of snow on the ground. And it's going to be ugly, ugly. But at the end of the day, whoever wins this isn't going to win this region, but it's going to be arguably one of the best matchups of the entire tournament.
Next up, we have one of our top seeds in the entire tournament, Guardians of the Galaxy, taking on the Ben Affleck Daredevil. In another matchup, no surprise, Spider-Man 2 makes the field. They'll be taking on maybe the original Marvel film in Blade. Banner, kind of an interesting matchup here, especially considering effects on pop
again, this
culture.
is another... Yeah, it's another one that's going to be an interesting... I love Doc Ock, so I think that Spider-Man 2's got this wrapped up, but it's not going to be an easy fight. They can't look past them.
It's going to be interesting to see what our fans think on some of these older movies that really kind of set up, even if they weren't fantastic, like Blade isn't a fantastic movie, but it showed what you should do and what you shouldn't do too. It really set the way for a lot of the other movies.
Next up, V for Vendetta takes on a very different opponent in Superman Returns. In another matchup, making the field, of course, Captain America, the First Avenger, and kind of surprisingly matches up in a battle of Chris Evans movies against the 2005 Fantastic Four film. Geiger, what do you think here? Chris Evans will win regardless.
Yeah, and I mean, that means I lose because I hate Chris Evans, but Captain America, the First Avenger was an okay movie, but the first Fantastic Four, I think you guys did a very well job hammering that in the ground when we did the movie commentary on a couple weeks ago, which you should check out. So,
look, I'll put it this way. When Chris Evans is the best actor in the Fantastic Four movie, you know it's not good.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's going up against the First Avenger, which, again, starred Chris Evans. So it's really a lose-lose.
He's all over it. In our next matchup, Batman Begins, no surprise, makes the tournament. Another team that snuck in at the end. It'll be going up against Sin City, A Dame to Kill For. Then in a pretty interesting matchup, we have X2, X-Men United, taking on Iron Man 3. Banner, I know you're a huge fan of X2. How do you like its chances here?
It's going to win. There's no chance. X2, it is disgusting that it is only a 7 seed. X2 should be at least a 3 seed, probably a 2 seed. It's bullshit.
I think that's some of the Four Loko talking, but you do make a good point.
One thing I'll say, though, and how we came up with all these seedings is all three of us voted on him, and Banner wanted X2 to be a 1 seed, kind of like the first Spider-Man I thought would be a 1 seed. That didn't happen. But I liked Iron Man 3. I'll say that. But after rewatching X2, it was a very solid movie that I agree with Banner could make a very deep run, maybe even a Final Four fucking run in this tournament. It is a very good movie.
I've been on record very publicly about my thoughts on Iron Man 3, and when it comes time for this matchup, I will voice them again. Next up, in a lopsided DC matchup, we have BVS, Dawn of Justice, going up against Michael Fassbender's best performance as the villain in Jonah Hex.
Now, let me just say something about this, Jeff. On casting, Jonah Hex could go away because they're casted very, very well.
That is true.
Yeah.
The movie sucked, though.
After that, we have a very interesting matchup. X-Men First Class takes on The Amazing Spider-Man 2 in a battle of two Marvel properties.
Remember that one?
Yeah, kind of struggling here. Next up, we have maybe one of the most lopsided matchups in the tournament as the Avengers will take on the Halle Berry classic, Catwoman.
Catwoman fans are cheering right now because they got in the tournament, and I've never seen anyone, to quote Charles Barkley, so excited to get their ass whooped in the first round because that's not going anywhere.
Next up, an all MCU clash as Iron Man 2 takes on Ant-Man. After that, we have X-Men Days of Future Past, and sneaking in at the back end of the tournament is the Nicolas Cage film Ghost Rider. Our next matchup, Banner, I'm interested to get your opinion on this. The original Thor takes on the Ron Perlman movie Hellboy, directed by Guillermo del Toro. Sort of an interesting matchup here.
It's going to be another dirty fight. And honestly, I think that Hellboy can put it out if we're going to do predictions. I don't know if we are.
They have a shot at the upset.
I think Hellboy can pull this out. It was a very good movie, and then they fucked it up by doing a sequel.
I think that Hellboy can pull this out. I liked the first Thor. I liked it. I didn't love it. But Hellboy is a really kind of closet comic book fan, but on the Broforce squad, we have very true comic book fans that know the comic books very well, and I think they could vote Hellboy through because it wasn't that bad a movie.
Yep. Our next matchup is the original X-Men taking on a movie that I think is underrated in Punisher Warzone. Do not sleep on Punisher Warzone for the best scene with the opening sequence where he kills all the triads in the house. After that, a very dark and gloomy matchup. This will be right down Geiger's alley as the original Sin City takes on the James Mangold-directed The Wolverine. Geiger, what do you think about this one?
Sin City's one that I haven't watched in probably a year and a half, but once I pop it in, it's a movie that once I start drinking, I'm going to start screaming, this could maybe be a Final Four pick. It is very fucking well done, especially if you've ever read the novel, and how it's kind of black and white sometimes, but then you see the red. Very well directed, too.
Our next matchup, as we move into the last quarter of the bracket here, Captain America the Winter Soldier, very popular movie, takes on the abomination of a second act, that is Spider-Man 3. Banner, what are your thoughts on this, and do you still have nightmares about the emo Venom scene with Tobey Maguire?
Look, if this is not a 5-0 win for Winter Soldier, I have failed with our fans.
Best scene, Tobey Maguire's salsa dancing.
Agreed.
1-0
It's an
Spider-Man
early
3.
Oh my god.
Next up,
I hate all of you.
Next up, we have a battle of two movies that came out this year in Doctor Strange versus X-Men Apocalypse. Should be interesting. After that, we have the Juggernaut, the original Iron Man that, of course, started the Marvel Cinematic Universe, taking on the Brian Banner classic Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer. Banner, I can't go to you because you're too much of a homer here. Geiger, what do you think about this matchup?
Another one, I've said this about 8 fucking movies, but the original Iron Man, when we could do effects on pulp culture, I am a DC guy, and I love The Dark Knight, but how can you vote that none of these Marvel movies have had more effects on pulp culture, because everyone has changed their game to try to have every fucking thing unite all these movies. So Iron Man 1 has a definite chance to make a deep fucking run in this thing.
It's going deep, deep, deep.
In one of our more interesting matchups, we have the very polarizing film Watchmen taking on the Andrew Garfield first Amazing Spider-Man movie. After that, we go back to DC properties for a very dark take as The Dark Knight Rises takes on Constantine. Geiger, I know you're a fan of the character John Constantine, but not so much this movie. How do you see this one shaking out?
And not a fan of Keanu Reeves at all, but The Dark Knight Rises, once again, just going off the criteria we have. On best scene, I don't know if there's a better scene when Bane breaks Batman's back. That one could, surprise some people whenever it plays some higher seeds down the road.
After that, we have The Incredible Hulk starring Edward Norton taking on The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Then, rounding out the bracket here, these last 4 matchups, we have the huge hit. It's the all Ryan Reynolds matchup
Here
again.
We go. This is one to watch, baby.
Deadpool taking on Green Lantern. Banner, how do you see this one shaking out? Ryan Reynolds will for sure get the win and the loss.
And Green Lantern is moving on. I'm kidding, guys. I'm kidding. Deadpool's going to shoot him in the head.
Next up, kind of another interesting matchup. Man of Steel, obviously, of course, starring Henry Cavill, takes on Hancock. After that, we have the Michael Keaton starring Batman with huge effects on pop culture, taking on X-Men 3, The Last Stand. And then the last matchup in the first round of our comic book movie Maddness tournament is Avengers Age of Ultron versus Kick-Ass. Banner, anything that stands out to you in this last matchup or in the field?
That's actually a really interesting one because Kick-Ass was very, very good, even though it's the lower seed. And Age of Ultron, it was just kind of a placeholder for me. So we could see an upset here.
Really quick, I just want to talk about 2 things. One, we haven't discussed this in any other platforms, but we're each getting a save. And you guys will understand what that means whenever we start doing the live podcast. But we each get a save, just one save, not each round, but just one save the entire tournament. The other one, I want to go around the horn really quick. Banner, I'll start with you. What is one movie that you think is maybe, a 6 seed or a 5 seed that could actually maybe get in the fucking Final Four and win this thing?
There's a lot of interesting matchups in that middle round. I remember when we were creating this bracket, finding there wasn't. We had our clear tops, we had our clear bottoms,
right.
But the middle of the pack was very, very plugged up.
Yeah, it was.
And I'm stalling right now just to kind of.
I got one.
I
think the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I've got one. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I think the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles might be a sleeper pick in here, just because of the nostalgia factor. It was dark and serious, and obviously its effects on pop culture kind of let people know that you can take sort of out there characters if you put them in a more visceral and grounded setting and definitely tell a story that's compelling. What do you got, Banner?
Yeah, I think, and this one, it's a 4 seed, so it's not exactly a middle of the pack seed, but it's one that not a lot of people think of. V for Vendetta, I think, can make a deep run with the story that it tells and how it was told. I think it can make a very deep run, and that may shock a few people.
I'm still calling this, and I think it's the best comic book movie ever just because of everything it started. I think the original Batman, I mean, talk about, the first Superman and stuff, but Jack Nicholson killed as the Joker. It made top Oscar-winning actors being like, I want to play the villain in the next, Superman movie or Deadpool movie or whatever. And it was just so fucking well done. And it was the first movie that actually went there. It went fucking dark. It wasn't funny at all. It wasn't poppy. It wasn't, comic booky, kick, pow, bang. I think that one could beat any fucking movie in this tournament, I think. If it's voted right and, you get the right fans and stuff like that. That's the one I think could make a really deep run.
All right, guys, before Geiger...
I think you just hit on the biggest thing right there, Geiger. We need the fans. Guys, we need you guys to get out there, vote for this stuff, and help us decide what the best comic book movie is.
If it's not for our fans, and by the way, thank you. We've reached over 1,000 likes, well over 1,000. We're like 1,100 right now. If it wasn't for you guys, we'd just be three drunk guys avoiding our fucking wives talking about comic book movies. But because of you guys, we actually have a podcast that we want you to vote on. I mean, how many hours have we dedicated to doing this bracket and voting on shit? I mean, it's been probably 6 to 8 hours total trying to get all this together for you guys. We want you guys to vote. Who cares what we think is the best movie? We want you guys to vote these movies through, and we want to see what all of our fans think is the best comic book movie ever.
Awesome. There you go, comic fans. That is our 64 comic movie madness bracket. Be sure to check out our Facebook and Twitter, at Bro4Squad on Twitter and on Facebook, Bro4Squad. That's 3 words. For our live bracket and for all the matchups, listen to our podcast on iTunes and YouTube. Subscribe to us there. Again, Bro4Squad, 3 words. For everything else, check out our website, bro4squad.com. And in the description of this, click the link to our comic movie madness bracket. Thank you guys, and we'll check you out in the movie.
All right, guys. Shots.